A 10-year-old girl enters the hospital, holding a newborn tightly in her arms. Medical staff, both nurses and doctors, rush to her side, trying to comprehend why such a young child is bringing a baby into the facility. However, when she finally discloses the baby's true owner, a tense silence envelops the room. Her revelation leaves everyone in shock. So, who is the baby's parent? And what is the startling reality behind this young girl's situation? Stay tuned, because every moment of this story is crucial. Also, please let me know where you're tuning in from, and if this story resonates with you, consider subscribing for more engaging narratives. Let's dive in. The first light of day barely illuminated the Riverdale hills as the automatic doors of St. Michael's Medical Center opened. Nurse Isabella Garcia, just starting her shift, looked up from her paperwork and nearly spilled her coffee. Approaching her was a girl who appeared disheveled and exhausted, no older than 10, clutching a tiny baby tightly. Isabella's heart skipped a beat. "Sweetie, are you all right?" she asked softly, stepping aside. The girl glanced up, her eyes filled with fear and fatigue. I was told to come here," she stammered, holding the baby closer. Isabella's instincts took over. "You're safe now," she assured her, feeling a pang of empathy as she reached out. "May I see the baby?" With trembling hands, the girl lifted the blanket just enough for Isabella to see the newborn's face. Peacefully unaware of the turmoil around him, Isabella's breath caught something was terribly wrong. As Isabella guided the girl, Mia, into a private room, Dr. Daniel Fernandez entered, immediately sensing the tension in the air. "Mia," Isabella introduced, her voice filled with concern. "This is Dr. Fernandez. Has here to assist." Mia hesitated, her eyes moving between the doctor and the baby. "Will, you take him away," she whispered, holding the baby tighter. Dr. Fernandez knelt beside her. "We just want to ensure both of you are okay. Can you tell us what happened?" Mia bit her lip, clearly struggling internally. After a moment, she murmured, "I woke up, and he was there. It hurt a lot." Tears started to form in her eyes as Isabella gently took her hand. Dr. Fernandez and Isabella exchanged a look, both trying to conceal their horror. Their years of medical experience indicated this was more than a simple accident. As the morning progressed outside the hospital, the atmosphere inside Mia's small, quiet room changed. She sat at the edge of the bed, holding Leo close, her eyes distant and troubled. Dr. Fernandez stood by the doorway with Nurse Isabella, their faces serious. They knew Mia needed more support than they could provide alone and felt compelled to act. By midday, Clara Morgan, an experienced social worker from Riverdale Child Services, arrived. She approached Mia's room with gentle compassion. Clara had managed countless cases over the years, but something about this delicate young girl touched her deeply. Taking a deep breath, she knocked softly on the door. "Mia?" she called softly, entering the room. She offered a warm smile, careful not to overwhelm the child. "I'm Clara. I'm here to ensure you and Leo are safe." Maya's grip on the baby tightened, her small hands white-knuckled as she pulled him closer, almost concealing him from Clara. Sensing her fear, Clara approached slowly and took a seat at the far end of the bed. She looked down at the worn hospital floor, allowing a moment of silence before meeting Mia's wary gaze. "Mia, you were very brave to come here," Clara said gently, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is there anything you'd like to share?" "We're here to listen." Maya's lip trembled, and for a moment she seemed lost, like a little girl unsure of her next move. But the gravity of her situation weighed her down, and she glanced up at Clara, her eyes filled with fear and something else Clara recognized all too well: shame. "My stepfather. He told me it had to be a secret," Mia whispered, each word laden with years of fear and isolation. Her gaze fell back to the floor, her fingers nervously stroking the blanket around Leo. "I didn't want any of this. I didn't know." Her voice broke under the immense pressure of everything left unsaid. Tears threatened to spill, but she held them back, desperately clinging to her remaining strength. Clara reached out, placing a comforting hand on Mia's shoulder, grounding her in the present. "Mia," she said softly, her voice calm and reassuring. You did nothing wrong. None of this is your fault. I need you to understand that. Mia frowned as if the words didn't fully register. She shook her head slightly, a small act of defiance against the kindness Clara was offering. I thought if I didn't say anything, if I just listened, it would all go away, she confessed, her voice barely audible. But then, Leo appeared, and I didn't know what to do. I was so scared. A tear slid down her cheek, and her voice became even quieter. I still am. Dr. Fernandez, who had been quietly standing at the room's edge, exchanged a look with Isabella. They had heard similar confessions before, but hearing it from such a young, vulnerable child was deeply affecting. Isabella felt her throat tighten, her heart twisting in pain. Clara nodded, letting Mia's words linger in the air. Mia, you've been incredibly strong, she said with admiration in her voice. You took a huge step by coming here. Now that we know, we're not going to let you face this alone anymore. There are people who want to help you and keep you safe. Do you understand? Mia looked up at Clara, her eyes showing a flicker of hope mixed with fear. The phrase keep you safe was foreign to her, almost impossible to believe after so long feeling unprotected and hidden in her secret. Clara continued, well, ensure you and Leo have a safe place to go, away from anyone who might harm you. You deserve to be safe, Mia. Both of you do. Dr. Fernandez stepped closer, his voice steady and comforting. We'll make sure of it, Mia. Whatever it takes. Mia nodded, and for a brief moment, she allowed herself to envision a life where she didn't have to constantly fear, where Leo could rest peacefully without her worrying about someone sneaking in. It felt surreal, a fragile glimmer of hope. Clara stood from the bed, her expression serious and resolute. She understood the magnitude of what was ahead: the phone calls, the paperwork, the careful strategic efforts to ensure Mia's protection and pursue justice. But she was ready to do whatever was necessary to follow through. With quiet determination, she left the room to contact the authorities, initiating the process that would irrevocably change Mia's life. Isabella returned to sit beside Mia on the bed. You did the hardest part today, Mia, she whispered, gently smoothing her hair. You told the truth. Now let us handle the rest. Mia leaned into Isabella's comforting presence, holding Leo close, while a quiet determination grew within the hearts of those around her. They were committed to protecting her, no matter what, and to fighting until Mia and Leo could have the safe future they deserved. The days at St. Michael's Medical Center passed by with a blend of routine and subtle urgency. Maya's room, which was once stark and empty, began to change, gradually becoming filled with small comforts that brought life. The hospital staff, deeply touched by Mia's circumstances, collaborated to create an environment that could provide her some peace amidst the trauma. Detective Carlos Sosa was a regular visitor, each visit uncovering another heartbreaking reality. Mia had suffered severe abuse at the hands of her stepfather, and Leo's tiny bundle she held with intense protectiveness was indeed her child. Mia's mother was missing, adding another layer of uncertainty and sorrow to the young girl's life. The investigative team was thorough, following leads and collecting evidence to ensure Mia's stepfather would be brought to justice. However, their primary focus remained on keeping Mia and Leo safe. Isabella became Mia's unwavering companion, staying with her through every medical examination, each checkup, and every necessary conversation for the investigation. She provided a steady, calming presence by Mia's side, gently encouraging her to emerge from the protective shell she had built. With each passing day, Isabella noticed glimpses of the child Mia once was: a fleeting smile, a shy glance, a whispered thank you, revealing the innocence still present beneath the pain. Moved by Mia's bravery and resilience, the hospital staff began bringing small tokens to brighten her room. Anna, one of the nurses, decorated the walls with cheerful children's drawings, transforming the once plain space into a vibrant display of color. Another nurse brought a small teddy bear for Leo, which quickly became his constant companion in his crib beside Mia's bed. Dr. Fernandez, who visited Mia daily, occasionally brought treats like cookies or juice boxes, hoping to add some joy to her long days. These small yet heartfelt gestures began to lessen Mia's fear and sense of isolation. Gradually, her gaze softened, her guard lowered, and she started to trust those around her. The wall she had erected around herself began to crumble, revealing glimpses of a little girl who had yearned for a safe, loving environment. One evening, as daylight faded to dusk, Isabella took a small book from her bag and sat beside Maya's bed. "Would you like to hear a story about angels, Mia?" she asked, holding the book up with a gentle smile. Mia looked at her in surprise, a hesitant spark in her eyes. For a moment, her expression softened into something Isabella hadn't seen before, a hint of curiosity, a longing for comfort. "Yes, please," Mia whispered, her voice almost too soft to hear. She nestled deeper into the bed, holding Leo close, as Isabella began to read. As Isabella read aloud, her voice adopted a soothing rhythm, crafting a tale about brave guardian angels watching over those in need. Mia listened attentively, her face illuminated by the soft light of the bedside lamp. With each word, her shoulders relaxed, her brow unfurrowed, and her breathing became steadier. For a few minutes, she was simply a child again, immersed in a story, feeling safe and warm. Isabella concluded the story, closing the book quietly. She glanced at Mia, who was looking down at Leo with a mix of tenderness and hope. "Do you believe angels are real?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Isabella reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from Mia's face. "I do," she responded softly. "Sometimes angels aren't what we imagine. They might not have wings or halos, but they're there when we need them most." Mia's face brightened with a small, shy smile, a spark of something beautiful breaking through her grief. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, she was surrounded by people who would protect her and Leo from now on. As Isabella watched Mia drift off to sleep, Leo nestled close. She made a silent vow to herself. She would support this young girl and her baby, no matter the challenges ahead. Mia had already endured so much, and now, surrounded by a caring team, she was beginning to heal. In that quiet moment, as stars appeared outside the window, a sense of hope filled the room, a fragile yet growing belief that Mia's life could one day be filled with light, love, and safety. On the third morning, a quiet anticipation filled Mia's room at St. Michael's Medical Center. After days spent in the sterile hospital environment, surrounded by doctors and nurses, Mia's world was about to change direction. Clara Morgan, her social worker, had informed her that someone special would be visiting that day. Mia, holding Leo close, felt a mix of anxiety and curiosity rising within her. Clara walked into the room wearing a warm smile. "Mia, there's someone I'd like you to meet," she said, turning toward the door and signaling for their guest to enter. A woman with a kind and gentle face entered the space. Her warm brown eyes exuded a calmness that seemed to fill the room, and her presence emanated a comforting strength. She was dressed in a simple blouse and carried a woven bag, from which Mia could spot a small, colorful toy peeking out. "Hello, Mia," the woman greeted softly, her voice brimming with warmth. "I'm Camila Torres. I've heard so much about you and Leo, and I want you to know that you're both very special. If you'd like, my husband and I would love to have you stay with us for a while." Mia's eyes widened as she held Leo protectively. She had heard stories about foster care, and her heart pounded with uncertainty. Would she be separated from Leo? Would she? She had only begun to feel the comfort provided by the hospital and Isabella's constant support, and now another person was asking her to trust again. "But," her voice wavered slightly, "will I still get to take care of him?" She looked down at Leo, her hands instinctively gripping his tiny body tighter. Mrs. Torres stepped closer, her movements deliberate and calm, as if fully understanding Mia's hesitation. "Of course, Mia," she replied gently. "You'll continue to be there for Leo every step of the way. But I also want you to have the opportunity to be a child, to play, to learn, and to make friends." She smiled softly, allowing her words to resonate. "In our home, you'll have your own bed, your own room somewhere just for you and Leo. And I promise you both will be loved and safe." Mia looked at her, eyes filled with disbelief. Love and safety were things she hadn't felt in a long time. And the idea of having her own space, a place where she and Leo could stay together without fear, was almost too much to fathom. "Do you have other kids?" she asked tentatively, her voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Torres nodded. "Yes, we do. A few years ago, my husband and I began fostering children who needed extra care, children who have been through difficult times. We understand what it's like to feel alone, and we know how important it is to be surrounded by people who care about you." Maya's shoulders began to relax, an indescribable feeling washing over her. She glanced down at Leo, who stirred in her arms, unaware of the conversation around him. She could imagine them perhaps in a small room with soft blankets and a crib for Leo, a place where they could be together, safe and warm. Clara, noticing Mia's growing comfort, gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Mia, Mrs. Torres and her family have been helping children for a long time. They'll take care of both of you." Mia turned back to Mrs. Torres, still feeling hesitant. "I've never had my own room before. Do you think, would it be okay if I decorated it?" A soft chuckle escaped Mrs. Torres, her eyes shining with kindness. "Of course, Mia. Well, decorate it however you like. We can put up anything that makes you feel at home. You'll have your own bed, a crib for Leo, and a big closet for all your things. And if there's anything else you want, just let us know." The vision Mrs. Torres painted was almost magical to Mia. She could see herself lying on a bed covered in soft blankets, maybe even with a few stuffed animals, while Leo slept peacefully in his crib nearby. The thought of being somewhere filled with warmth and comfort, rather than fear, made her chest feel lighter. Seeing Mia's defenses begin to lower, Mrs. Torres reached into her bag and pulled out a small angel figurine, its wings spread wide in a protective embrace. "This is for you, Mia," she said, holding it out. "An angel to keep close whenever you feel scared or alone." Maya's eyes welled up with tears as she held the small figurine, her fingers tracing its smooth surface. It was delicate, beautiful, and seemingly made just for her. She clutched it tightly, not entirely ready to lower her defenses, but allowing a flicker of hope to emerge. "I think I'd like that," she murmured, her voice shaky as her heart began to open a bit more. "I think Leo and I would like to stay with you." Mrs. Torres' face brightened, and Clara exhaled a silent sigh of relief. This marked the start of a new chapter for Mia and Leo, where they could finally experience the love and security they had long been denied. As their conversation continued, Mrs. Torres described her home, vividly illustrating a welcoming environment bathed in light. She spoke of a garden blooming with bright flowers, a small swing set nestled under the trees, and a cozy kitchen where Mia could help bake cookies. Mia listened attentively, her eyes wide with cautious excitement, absorbing every detail. Before departing, Mrs. Torres gently placed a hand on Mia's shoulder. "We'll see each other very soon, Mia. And remember, you and Leo will always have a family with us." Mia held the angel figurine close as she watched Mrs. Torres and Clara exit the room. Taking a deep breath, she looked down at Leo with newfound determination. For the first time, she envisioned a future for them that wasn't overshadowed by fear or uncertainty. She leaned in, whispering to Leo, "We're going to be okay." In that moment, as the sun streamed through her hospital window, Mia felt a sense of peace settle within her. It was delicate and still tentative, but it was genuine. For the first time, she truly believed that they could have a life filled with warmth, love, and safety. Mia's days at the hospital began to merge into a soothing routine, and the sterile walls of her room started to feel almost like home. Each morning, she awoke to find Leo peacefully sleeping in his crib beside her, his tiny face free from the worries that burdened her young heart. She would reach out, her hand gently brushing his soft cheek, feeling an overwhelming sense of love and protectiveness that seemed to grow stronger each day. The hospital staff continued to surround Mia and Leo with small acts of kindness. Carmen, a nurse only a few years out of nursing school, took a special interest in Mia. With her lively spirit and easy laughter, Carmen's presence was like a breath of fresh air. One afternoon, she entered Mia's room carrying a neatly wrapped gift. Maya's eyes sparkled with curiosity as Carmen handed her the small package. "Go ahead, open it," Carmen encouraged, her smile warm. Mia carefully tore away the paper, revealing a small leather-bound photo album. As she opened it, her breath caught. Inside were snapshots of her and Leo taken during their time at the hospital. There were pictures of her feeding him, cradling him close, and one that Isabella had taken of them sleeping side by side. Each image captured a tender moment between mother and child, preserving memories she hadn't even realized she was making. "Thank you," Mia whispered, her voice thick with emotion as she ran her fingers over the photos. "I never thought I'd get to keep something like this." Carmen knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're already an amazing mother, Mia," she said softly. "And now you'll have these memories to cherish forever." Maya's eyes filled with tears as she gazed at the pictures, seeing herself with Leo in ways she hadn't dared to imagine. For the first time, she recognized the beauty in her journey, a journey marked by pain, yes, but also by love. Each image in the album served as a reminder of the strength she possessed and the unbreakable bond she shared with Leo. Later that afternoon, Dr. Fernandez entered the room. Mia looked up from the album, her eyes still shining with gratitude. But Dr. Fernandez's expression was serious, softened by a gentle smile. He took a seat beside her bed, his presence exuding warmth and reassurance. "Mia, I have some news to share with you," he began, his tone calm yet firm. "Your stepfather has been taken into custody. He's now with the police, and I promise he won't be able to hurt you or Leo again." A rush of emotions washed over Mia Leaf, disbelief, and even a hint of fear as the reality of his arrest set in. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the photo album tighter, struggling to process the weight of Dr. Fernandez's words. It was over. The source of her nightmares, the man who had destroyed her innocence, was gone. "You mean, has really gone?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Dr. Fernandez nodded, his gaze steady. "Yes, Mia. You're safe now, both of you." Mia's shoulders slumped as the tension she had held onto for so long began to melt away. Like a heavy burden she didn't realize she was carrying was finally lifted. But then a new worry surfaced, tightening her chest. She looked down at Leo, who was resting peacefully, blissfully unaware of the hardships surrounding him. "Will Leo forget me?" she asked softly, barely meeting Dr. Fernandez's eyes. If I can't take care of him, will he forget me?" "Doctor?" Fernandez's expression softened, his voice steady and reassuring. "Not a chance, Mia. You're his mother. You're his family. He'll always know how much you love him no matter what." A tear slid down Maya's cheek, and she quickly wiped it away, embarrassed by her emotions. Dr. Fernandez gently placed his hand on her shoulder, his touch filled with a paternal warmth she had never known before. "Mia, people enter our lives and leave marks on us that never fade," he continued. "You and Leo share a bond that no one can take away. Even if things don't go exactly as you planned, you'll always be connected." Mia nodded slowly, letting his words sink in. She looked down at Leo, and in that moment, she knew that her love for him was more powerful than any fear or uncertainty. Even if circumstances changed, even if they weren't always together, her love would always be with him, woven into the fabric of his life. As she sat there, her fingers absently tracing the cover of the photo album, Isabella entered the room with another small gift in her hands, a soft, knitted blanket, embroidered with tiny stars and moons. She draped it over Leo, tucking him in with a gentle smile. "I thought he might like something special for when he goes home," Isabella said, her voice soft as she looked at Mia. "And I wanted you to know that you'll always be family to us here. This hospital will always be a place you can come back to, no matter where life takes you." Maya's heart swelled with gratitude as she looked around at the people who had become her makeshift family. In a short time, they had shown her more kindness and compassion than she had ever known. They had given her hope, a safe haven, and most of all, a sense of belonging. That night, as Mia lay beside Leo, her mind drifted to the future. She thought of Mrs. Torres' warm home, the garden filled with flowers, and the swing under the big tree. She imagined what it would be like to have her own room, a place where she could watch Leo grow and where they could build new memories, free from the shadows of the past. For the first time, she could see a future for herself and Leo, one that was no longer dominated by fear, but filled with possibility. With a small smile, she reached over and placed her hand on Leo's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her palm. "I love you, Leo," she whispered. "A promise and a vow. I'll always be here for you, no matter what." As she closed her eyes, her heart swelled with a mixture of sadness, relief, and hope in a new kind of family, built not by blood, but by the unwavering love and care that had surrounded her within these walls, would always be with her. The time came for Mia and Leo to transition to life with Mrs. Torres. As Mia packed her few belongings, Isabella gifted her a stuffed angel bear for Leo and a small sunflower plant for herself, symbolizing resilience and growth. At the doorstep of Mrs. Torres' cozy home, Mia hesitated, glancing back at the hospital she had come to think of as a sanctuary. Isabella knelt beside her, offering a final reassuring embrace. "You're incredibly brave, Mia. And remember, you'll always have a family here." Mia took a deep breath, then stepped forward, ready to begin a new chapter of her life. Months later, Dr. Fernandez, Isabella, and other hospital staff received a letter from Mia. Inside were photos of Leo, who was growing rapidly, and a note thanking everyone for giving her a second chance at happiness. She concluded her letter with, "Thank you for being my angels when I needed them the most. Leo and I will always remember that family isn't about blood, it's about love." As Isabella read Mia's words, her eyes filled with tears. Mia's courage and resilience had left a lasting impression on them all, inspiring everyone at the hospital to continue fighting for every child who needed a family during times of darkness. What would you do if faced with a situation like this? If you saw a child in need, would you step forward like Isabella, Carmen, and Mrs. Torres did? Or perhaps there's more to consider. How should our society respond to children like Mia who need safety and support? Let us know your thoughts on Mia and Leo's journey, and what you would do to help a child in need. Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your perspective on this powerful story.